Okay, let's dive right into a truly bizarre story that recently sent the sports world and especially Broncos Nation into a complete frenzy. We're talking a Hall of Fame quarterback, a ski resort, and a very, very lost animal. So the story broke with this incredible headline. I mean, imagine you're just scrolling through your feed and you see this. John Elway, the legend himself, in a car accident with a polar bear? You gotta stop and read that twice, right? You're sure you must have gotten it wrong. But believe me, the details that followed were even wilder. So here's the rundown of how it all supposedly happened. The story goes that Elway and his wife are driving up in the mountains, and out of nowhere, their car hits a polar bear. A polar bear that had somehow wandered all the way down from the Arctic. So the couple gets taken to a local hospital for some minor injuries. Thankfully, nothing serious. But still, the whole thing is just shocking. And this, right here, is where the story just perfectly taps into that larger-than-life legend of John Elway. According to the report, the doctors were just blown away by how calm he was. I mean, forget the fact he just collided with a polar bear. He wanted to know the score of the game. It's the kind of thing that feels like it was ripped straight out of a movie script, you know? Just cementing that legendary cool under pressure. But what about the other guy in this whole mess? Well, according to the story, the polar bear, who the hospital staff apparently nicknamed Blitz, which is just perfect, was also recovering safely. See, the tale just keeps getting more and more unbelievable. Not only is there a polar bear in Colorado, but now he's got a football-themed nickname. Of course he does. And you know the story couldn't just end there. In what was framed as a classic Elway move, he and his wife immediately promised to fund a whole new wildlife center. It was the perfect heroic ending, right? The legend not only survives a brush with a polar bear, but turns the entire crazy incident into a charity for other displaced Arctic wanderers. Okay, let's just pause for a second and get to the part you've probably been screaming in your head this whole time. A polar bear in the Colorado Rockies? Yeah, that feels like a bit of a stretch because, well, it is. And here's the big reveal. The whole point is that the entire story, from that shocking headline all the way to the heroic ending, was pure satire. It was never, ever meant to be taken as fact. It's all about using humor and exaggeration to tell a really entertaining story, one that plays on everything we already think about a public figure. And if you go back and look at the original article, the clues were hiding in plain sight the whole time. The piece said the polar bear was in Colorado to explore real estate opportunities. It said the new wildlife center would also help confused snowboarders. And if those giant red flags weren't enough, the social media tags literally included #satire. The story was winking at us the entire time. And this gets us to a really important distinction, you know? The goal here wasn't to deceive people with fake news, not at all. The real intent was just to entertain everyone by building on this mythic status that John Elway already has. It takes all the things we associate with him, his toughness, his leadership, his generosity, and just cranks the dial up to an absurd, hilarious level for an audience that's in on the joke. So, when you boil it all down, what this really shows us is that stories like this are basically a form of modern folklore. Think about it. In the past, legends about heroes were told around campfires. Today, they get shared online as satirical news stories. It's just a new way for a community, in this case Broncos fans, to celebrate a hero they all share. And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. In this age where we are just flooded with information, real and fake, what are the stories that actually cut through all that noise? Maybe, just maybe, it's the ones that are so perfectly absurd, they just feel like they should be true.